One day, a Stanford professor decided to do an experiment. He got one group of students to present 1-minute speeches to a second group. The speeches on average had 2 or 3 statistics in them, and only 1 in 10 told a story. About 10 minutes after the speeches were delivered, he asked the audience to write down what they had remembered. Can you guess how many remembered the statistics and how many remembered the stories? Only 5% remembered a single statistic, and 63% remembered the stories. You may have predicted that, but the question is why? Why do we remember stories? Well, it turns out our brains are wired for them. Using functional brain imaging, we know that only 2 areas light up when listening to stats: language processing and comprehension. It's like turning on a couple of lights before you leave the house, but nobody's really there. On the other hand, when hearing a story, 7 regions of your brain are active, including areas associated with theory of mind and areas rich in oxytocin receptors. Neuroscientist Paul Vieira calls oxytocin the moral molecule. In his famous experiment, he could predict the size of a charitable donation based on the levels of oxytocin in the brain. But there's more to this chemical cocktail of story. Stories also trigger cortisol and dopamine. Cortisol gets released through distress, and it helps us focus our attention. Attention is metabolically costly, so our brains use it sparingly. It's hard to get people's attention, but cortisol does the job. And then dopamine is the payoff. It's that pleasure waiting for us if we stick it out to the end of the journey. What's amazing is that these 3 chemicals seem to be intimately linked to the universal 3-act story structure. It's like brains and stories are perfectly in sync. Act 1 is where we first care about our hero, oxytocin. Act 2 is full of rising conflict, cortisol. And then we reach a climax in Act 3 where that tension is resolved. The ring is cast into Mount Doom. The Death Star is destroyed. Neo defeats Agent Smith. Ah, the flush of dopamine. So 3 acts, 3 chemicals. And your brand can leverage this powerful combination. Please join us for a special session where we'll explore how your brand can create memorable and meaningful customer experiences. Because brain science has confirmed it, the best story wins.